We are rolling.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. Today we have comedian Alex Stone with us. Alex, pleasure to have you in, man.
Yeah, man. I've been a fan for a while, but wanting to come in.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Glad we got you on the show. So.
Yeah.
Where are you from, man?
From Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay, cool. Originally.
Yeah, well, a little bit west of it, pretty much Winston-Salem. A lot of times when people ask where I'm from, I can tell you the town exactly. But I'm actually, I grew up in a place called Davie County.
Okay.
It's so small that there's only one high school in the whole county.
Oh, wow.
And and so, but a lot of times, like when we did anything like go shopping, do anything like that, go to the movies, we always went to Winston.
Yeah.
So might as well just say I'm from Winston.
Okay, cool.
And And so like it's so easier too when people are like, well, if you go 30 minutes west of Winston-Salem, there's a hole in the wall. That's where I'm from. Well,
it's just woods.
Yeah, just woods. I just lived in the woods, raised by wolves.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So when did you start doing comedy?
I started when I was 19.
Wow.
Actually, yeah, really young. Not that young, but I mean, I was.
Well, for comedy this
year.
Yeah.
So I first set I did was actually at a Comedy Zone. Just went and did an open mic, and at the time too, it's not even something I thought like it was like something I want to pursue. It was just kind of like just messing around because I just written some ideas in my head, and I went and did a set, and I bombed terribly, but it was almost like the shame was like, I'm not gonna do that again. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna show that I can actually do it.
Right.
And so I went back and did it a second time. I did a little bit better. I'm like, okay, so I can improve. And still at this point in time, I didn't plan on being a comic. I was just like trying to no, I'm not gonna suck that bad again. Let me just do this again. So, and then like a year later, I'm like, I guess I'm a comic now. I've been doing this so yeah, it's kind of how I fell into it. Was right. Like I did a lot more writing and preparation before I even got on stage.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that stuck with me because I'm pretty heavy into like having like a really polished set worked out, and then like let it fail on stage, and then edit it.
Then start working.
And the next day, be like, okay, well, what screwed up there? And I'll start like tweaking words and like, all right, well, this was kind of funny, but this wasn't. So let's take this part out and replace it with something else.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think a desire to write was what got me into stand up initially.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
so, and I could say like I don't write a lot of relatable things based in reality.
Yeah, your stuff's kind of it's like it's a little fantastic, but it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, and people know that in the audience. They know that I don't have a deal with Satan to help my garden, or that like.
Yeah.
I mean, like, or like, I don't go to the Renaissance Fair dressed like a wizard. Like, they know that for a fact. But
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I do. I don't know.
You sell it really well.
But there's like, I have like all these things where like, for me, this is like a release or an escape.
Yeah.
So I want it to be an escape. So I want this to be just like out there.
Yeah, that's fun stuff, man. I
I
enjoy your material. Yeah.
I tie up like even though it's not real. Like for example, I have a joke about like I'm 34 years old and I'm letting go of the fact that I'm probably not gonna be an astronaut. But like even though like that's sort of not real, but it kind of is. But it's about like the idea of like letting go of a couple things that never worked out for you in life.
Yeah. No, yeah, the metaphorical.
Yeah, that's still there. That's still real.
There,
yeah.
And you tell it's like loosely based in reality. Like it's
sort of.
It's still you. I'm sure you have a garden.
I do.
Yeah.
And I started during the pandemic because it's like I got to do something before I don't go batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of like that joke is just like it's the idea of like you have to kind of do a few crazy things just to keep from going insane whenever you're locked in your house for 18 months.
Do you ever do any Comic-Cons or anything with that material?
I have a little bit. With Dusty, I've done a few gigs with him with Attention Horse Comedy, and I'm part of an improv troupe as well, and I've done a few sets at some comic conventions as part of an improv troupe, which that's a whole nother beast.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But your material seems like it would do really well at Comic-Cons.
Yeah, I think there's a specific audience that likes what I do, and there's another audience that definitely does not like what I do. There's certain crowds that just watch me like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, and I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like it.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to hear the devil bit.
It's that one's evolving. That one's actually pretty new because that was like my first like bit I was really proud of coming out of the pandemic about how like I had to just make a deal with Satan for my garden to grow, but it's just like how far am I going to go like to get these fresh vegetables?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I like it. I like the premise of it already.
Yeah.
When's your next show?
So my next show, that's a good question. I actually Twin City Stand Up. this Friday.
Oh, nice.
It's a show. So I'm actually producing and hosting that show.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say you could check it out, but you'll be in Florida. And I will too, actually, this weekend. Yeah.
And, next weekend.
Or next. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
next
yeah.
weekend.
I'll probably be in Colorado. I may end up getting stuck in Colorado, but not stuck. But
Yeah.
I may have to running a hair behind. So I may be there and flying back. Probably flying back to Florida on Friday.
Yeah, so
What are you guys doing in Florida?
My family's at the beach.
Oh, okay.
Basically, it's kind of turning into a thing. I don't know at what point it became a thing, but this is the third or fourth trip. But essentially, the fall and the spring, I put my wife and kids at the beach, essentially at St. Pete Beach. There's a private beach area there for like a month at a time. And so they kind of live there, and they do school remotely, and she does all that. And so they kind of get away from all this. Mm-hmm. My version of making a deal with the devil to get my garden to grow,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Except mine was a beach, and, just trying to create a happy place and a different place for the kids to be. And, it's definitely very relaxing, right? So just putting them there. So I pretty much, I don't care. I'll hop on a plane, hop in a car. I commute 4 hours minimum every day anyway. So whether they're in Mooresville or in Florida, it's the same difference. The only difference is instead of being in a car, I'm in a plane.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter to me. So I basically just go work, and then when I'm done working, I'll just fly back and spend time with them and then fly back. So last September, I think I flew 11 or 12 times in 5 weeks.
Wow.
Just to Florida, not counting everything else.
Yeah.
So,
I figure that's probably good for them, though, right? Because, I mean, things are so chaotic everywhere.
100%, yeah.
It seems like that actually, like having them go on extended vacation may be less chaotic than what's going on here in the school system.
Yeah, well, I pulled them out, man. I mean, as soon as, not even the political side, just take that out of it, but it just wasn't a good decision for our situation, for our kids, forcing them to try and wear masks, and just it wasn't a good learning environment. So we pulled them out. And I think most of the education for children should take place at home anyway. Mm-hmm. Really, school teaches to the lowest denominator. And I don't mean that to be an insult, but you can't teach to the leader of the class, and you can't teach to the middle. You got to teach to the ones that are at the bottom and try and bring them up. And so a lot of school systems have started having the people at the top of the class work with the kids in the lower part of the class, right? But you end up having this like flatline thing that takes place. So I think all these things kind of just led me down this other path, and then the mask thing was just like the icing on the cake. Like, okay, I think we're done with this. But and then not only that, then when they switched to at home learning anyway, and to be real with you, you've got teachers that have been in the business, great teachers, awesome teachers, but they've been doing it for 25 years, 30 years. Some of these teachers a long time in person, and now you're trying to get them to do something with technology, and most of them didn't even know how to operate Zoom, more or less know what it was, and you're trying to do something virtually, and it just was terrible. I think we ended up trying it for I think we made it through a week, and I was just like, all right, I'm done. Like, literally, I was like, I'm pulling them out of school. The mask thing, I pulled them out. The assistant principal reaches out. Look, we're going to switch to online. Just bear with us. You guys can be out this week, and then by the end of the week, we're going to have this launch. Then we switched to online. It was a mess. I think we made it through a week. I just started at school, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, things are so in flux right now. That's probably going to be best because, like you said, like everybody's still trying to adapt. What is the best thing to do? And I don't think anybody really knows.
I think you got to do what's best for your family and your situation.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's part of the issue with public schools, maybe even private schools, but definitely public schools, is that they try to do the average of everybody's situation, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think if you have the ability to, and you can homeschool, then you can literally teach what's important, but also you can cover those basics that need to be covered, but you can also teach what principles you may think are important and kind of really focus. And if one of your children is struggling, you've got one or two or three kids to worry about, not 35, and then technology and all these other things that you got to contend with. Yeah. So it's been interesting, and it's worked out well for our kids. And literally, I mean, honestly, I've always been upset with the education system anyway. When I was in it myself, an 8-hour day to do what really I could have done in myself in an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's filled with a lot of fluff because it's basically a child care system.
I mean, I think the education system in the country in general, like you said, it's been slacking for public schools for
100%.
Because I think you're right. I mean, it's more of just like, hey, let's just make sure we get these boxes checked off.
Yeah.
and make sure that we get the like, and it's a numbers game. Like, make sure as long as we get the bulk number them through.
Yeah.
I don't even care if they've learned anything. Did we get them to pass these exams? We did. All right, we're good. We're done.
Yeah.
with them.
Listen, I need your parents to work 8 hours a day in 8-hour shifts. It's no coincidence that that the average American shift is a 9 to 5, and school systems drop off before that and end just before it. And then by the time you add sports in, they end after that. It's daycare essentially, and then they're learning something while they're there. So hey, while they're trapped at daycare, we need to make sure that they check all these boxes. That's kind of the way it feels to me.
I feel like I struggled so hard in public school.
I did,
and it wasn't until I got out that actually, because because I learned, like, kids in school will take the initiative to learn. They do well, but if they don't learn that in that method, if they don't learn through just the structured class system, then a lot of times you see a lot of kids really struggle because they need things hands on, which I did. I'm definitely somebody that I need to watch somebody like do something, or watch somebody work it on the board and really explain it to me. And
there's
working on interested in the material.
What's the method you were
Montessori?
The Montessori schools.
Yeah.
I mean, like I like stuff like that. I mean, when I was in school, the problem was my mother was a teacher too, so I learned I was way ahead of my peers. Extreme. I mean, like, just wasn't even close. So I was bored, and I was a young male, testosterone, energy, ADHD, whatever you want to. I mean, like, literally, which I don't consider a problem necessarily. I liked multiple things. I don't like being confined in a box and sitting in a chair. Like, literally being told to sit in a chair for an hour straight, like, it just didn't work. And listen to something that I already knew. I mean, like, it just was so boring. I got so much trouble. Highly intelligent, did very, very well, but so much trouble. And we've got friends and partners. I've got people that I know that are worth 30, 40, 50 million, 100 million, like, and they struggled in school, right? But they were considered failures at school. But then you start to realize that everybody doesn't learn the same way, right? Everybody doesn't succeed in the same way, and everybody has different talents. And so that's kind of like the school system, I think, leaves out only one segment of society. I know people that did excellent school, valedictorian, got degrees from some of the best colleges, and they're unemployed currently.
yeah.
So it's not a guarantee of success.
And I think, like with Montessori schools, I mean, those are structured to like seek out, like, how does this person kid learn?
Yeah.
I mean,
And what are they interested in?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Private schools do a better job of that too.
I agree.
Because
Yeah.
teachers are more motivated because they make more. Private schools as well too. So yeah.
Well, it's motivated, but also with them making more, we get into you're not guaranteed a job. It's competition. You're competing for a job.
I just want to say a big problem from the voice in the room, since you don't see me, but is that a big problem with, I think, our public education used to be a lot better, but I think it was funded a lot better, and I think that's been pulled away a lot.
Right.
And I think it gets a lot of undue blame for sucking, but, like, how can you not suck if you're so
Well,
like
I mean,
that,
And I guess what I should say, I should put some context. I'm not necessarily.
I agree with you. Montessori is awesome.
It is, and I don't think that teachers are doing a bad job, and I don't think it's their fault. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the facts are the teacher, their standardized testing, which I'm not a big fan of. Right? There's all these things that I don't like, and the teachers, their pay, which is subpar, putting it lightly, and their resources are lacking, and they're graded themselves, right, based on certain things. So they teach based on that method, right? Yeah. And I don't like that either. And teachers, not to get in anything political side, just looking at inflation, there's 40% more cash in circulation today than there was a year ago, right? And so, like, if you think about that from an inflation standpoint, teachers' pay, I mean, they were already heavily underpaid, but you've got this rising inflation. And you're seeing pay, like I saw Chick-fil-A sign the other day, $19 an hour, which is great, good. If they can do it and operate their business at that level, then they should do it. But you're going to see teachers take a massive bath because their pay is typically voted through legislation, and it's very slow to move, and it's an archaic system. And so you're going to see teachers affected by inflation that specifically affects pay drastically because the gap. The divide in what they currently make and what their peers make is just going to grow enormously.
Well, I bet if you check, you're going to see that teachers are leaving in droves
100%.
from the system.
Oh, I'm sure. And then you talk about private schools, and I think private schools are paying more, but so now you've got teachers that are competing for a position. Mm-hmm. So you end up with teachers that are more motivated, but you also end up with potentially the best teachers. And maybe that's the idea, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting thing, and and you can sit here and it's easy for me to complain or to speak about all these things, and I'm not blaming any certain person. I'm just saying, hey, this is the facts. This is how it is.
What's the problem that our society's facing?
Definitely. So, and while society figures it out, whoever that is, I pulled my kids out of that system.
Yeah.
And we're learning common sense. They're learning common sense things. They're learning all the things that I think that they need to learn, right? That the school system also thinks they need to learn. But we're really spending a lot more time on, I'll be honest with you, like whatever their talents are. Like my son loves to program. My oldest, 10, he's 10. He's probably going to be an engineer of some sort, but he likes to build. Part of his school is building Legos. Like he builds these elaborate creations. I count that. I mean, why not? He also programs.
You can use his interest to teach him other stuff, like even 100%. History. You can show him how technology developed over the years and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you bring that up. I bought a book on the history of AI. Now, he's 10, right? And he's reading it. And I bought another book that's Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but for teens. Again, he's 10, but he read it. Yeah. Or he's reading it, right?
I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, if you can get your kids reading, I feel like they're already ahead of the curve.
100%, man.
Yeah. Like there was a certain point in my life with like my education, how I felt with things. The second I started reading, even if it was just like dumb books, just read something with like a different perspective. Or just like the second you start reading, it definitely. Actually, I saw a pivot in my life just from starting to read on a regular basis.
I agree with you.
I have a hard time with it. Sometimes I tell myself I'm going to read a lot. And I say I'm going to read, the next thing you know, I'm getting drunk while watching Frasier. But I tell myself all the time, I'm like, you're gonna read this book, and then like I just start, I'm like, yeah, but not right now though. Like, but no, I think that's a good path, man. I think what people that are going to succeed going further in society are people that get creative.
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting to see there are people like having some sort of like with the pandemic, there are what they call pod schools now. Yeah. Right, where they're like groups of parents saying like, hey. Well, I mean, one, because they're like, hey, I don't know what's going on with the virus anyways, and I just want my kids out of that. But, like, also, I mean, there's some people that I know that I think they're going to keep it that way because they developed this little group of, like, 5 or 6 kids. Yeah. And they're like, hey, we'll come up with, like, the curriculum for these kids. They get to learn in, like, not like a huge environment where kids, like, because when you have hundreds and thousands of kids just all crammed to a building, it becomes just it's like, I mean, a streamlined thing where it's just like, it's not about the kids, just push them through.
That's right, child care. It's literally, what do we do with these kids while the parents are working? Yeah. Like, that's the way it starts to feel.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I'm such a proponent of just education in general. I mean, obviously, it's easy. Like you said, it's easy to say that because you can't give people the motivation to learn. They sometimes they have to take it on themselves a little bit.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
But providing an environment that is more conducive to learning.
Right,
which I don't think we do a good job of at all.
There's no excitement.
So,
in public school.
And we do a lot of field trips, a ton, right? So, and like I try, I love miscellaneous and like crazy facts. Like, it's just one of my things, right? So, like, if you're on the beach, well, we're on the beach. We're in St. Pete. So what's near St. Pete? Well, Clearwater. Well, there was a movie about a dolphin that has a prosthetic tail, right? Mm-hmm. And anyway, dolphin tails. And so it ended up, and that was out of the Clearwater Aquarium. So we went up and we actually... So they read a book on it. We went to the aquarium. We got to see the dolphin. Then I let them watch the movie, right? Like, so we tried to do things that I think would have been fun in school, like some type of field trip that's also educational. And then we learned about like St. Pete. Right now there's red tide, the tail end of red tide. So we learned. I'm teaching my kids about what red tide is and supposedly what's causing it. So like, I mean, we're trying to teach them more than just the basics, the ones and zeros, and you know. I don't know. And then kind of let them do their own thing. Yeah. It's really, who knows if it's right, but it's working. So.
I mean, I think do what's right for you. Like you said, do what's right for you. Because, like, for me, for example, like, I feel like I've gotten more from my teenage work experience than I did from school.
I agree with that, yeah.
And, I mean, obviously, I had a very rare situation where my father owned a land surveying, geomatics, civil engineering consultation company. Yeah. And the second I was old enough to work, he was like, all right, well, carry some gear through the woods, and
I like
and like at the time I didn't realize I was retaining things, but as I got older, I realized like I was picking up a lot of stuff about like mapping, about just engineering in general,
right?
And it led to what I do now professionally, because I work in an engineering field now, and
That's
I don't think I would like. I'm not in that field because of school. I'm in that field because of what I learned as a teenager, working on the nights and weekends and summer with my father's company.
So this thought's not complete yet, but if you go back, a ways back, you would look, and typically the husband, and it's not about matriarchal systems, but the husband would work, the mother was at home with the kids, and a lot of the education took place in the home. It's very, very family focused, right? The fathers typically, they were home for the dinners every night. You had this typical American family thing going on, and let's say up until like the 70s and 80s. And if you look, it's like now we've got systems where pre the pandemic, both on average, husband and wife both work, both out of the home, children in school, no time at home, and people trying taking two individuals to earn what one used to earn to be able to support their family, all to live the American dream, to be able to afford to pay their rent, right, or their mortgage, and then to get a vacation one time a year if they're lucky. So you start to think about some of these things, and I think about like what the pandemic's brought on, and I'm like, maybe this is a good reset for society to go, hey, what's important? Like what's really?
I think it's going to be. I think I don't know what's going to come out of the next couple of years, but it's definitely going to transform society one way or the other.
Yeah. I think it is.
Yeah.
And there's 10 million jobs available today. The newest jobs report shows 10 million jobs available, and there's 9.5 million unemployed. So there's more jobs than there are people right now. Are they qualified for those jobs is a whole different discussion. But I really think it's not just a pay rate thing, because people are trying to pay through the roof now. Jobs that were paying $10 an hour, pre the pandemic, are paying $15 to $20 an hour now. So I mean, we're not talking about minimum wage anymore. I think people are they've had a chance to not work. They've had a chance to spend time with family. They've had death and chaos and all this stuff going on, and I think they're really trying to figure out, one, they're valuing, what do they want to do with their time, and what positions they want to be in, what's the effect on their family. I think there's a whole lot of things other than just how much do I get per hour to work.
Yeah, do I want to work 9 to 5?
Yeah.
Something I don't even like doing in the first
Exactly.
place. People are tired of the grind.
Yeah.
Which that's what I've said before. People are like, people just don't want to work anymore. I'm like, I don't think they want to work in the grind anymore.
The grind, yeah. It's what they're doing. So now they're trying to figure out, like, well, okay, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I think you get a lot of that.
People fall in love with gardening.
Yeah.
And you
Them
got to
deals
spill a
with the
little
devil.
blood in the soil to get it to grow. But
I
so
like it.
you own a comic book shop, right?
Yeah, I mean, me and another guy
Prior.
own.
Okay. Well,
it's really more of a tabletop gaming store.
Is it?
We do Magic the Gathering,
Oh, okay, I didn't
HeroClix,
know
and
that.
all that stuff. Yeah, D&D. Hey, we have comic books, but we're that's not the primary focus of the business. It used to be a bigger part of it, but
Okay. I knew it was the comic dimension, and I know you guys did some shows there for the comedy festival recently too. So
yeah, we did a show.
Yeah.
It was all right. We've done before the pandemic. We did a comedy show that did really well. Had about 30 people come out, and we had another one. We had another one scheduled during the pandemic when things had opened back up, but then they started to go back down. So we canceled that show, and then we did another one right after, and had about 20 people there. So we're going to start doing probably quarterly shows there, and I think they'll do pretty well. We can comfortably get 40 people to a show there.
I feel like that's the clientele for like comic book or tabletop gaming stores. Like that's definitely the clientele that appreciates stand-up a lot more.
Yeah,
I like those are my people as well. Those are the people that I think I can connect with.
Well, especially your material.
Yeah.
It would do really well there.
Definitely.
I just got to comment on how I think it's really interesting how things work out, that the comic dimension, and that you end up becoming a comedian.
Yeah, that is interesting.
How long have you been in the comic business?
Well, so I've always enjoyed comic books since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Don't really have time to read them much anymore, but my business partner Chris, he loves comic books. Like that's like a big aspect of his life, and also the tabletop gaming and stuff. You know, he's always been into HeroClix and Magic. He's actually one of the best HeroClix players in the world. And several years ago, I had read an article in I think Forbes or something about the comic book industry was doing really well. It was up by like 40% or something. And
Do you think that's because of the MCU?
it's because of that, all the superhero movies, it's because of Big Bang Theory, just a lot of pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
You know, with comic books and tabletop gaming. Stranger Things came out. But so I asked Chris if he'd be interested in, you know, starting a comic book and tabletop gaming store, and he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we started. That was over 6 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's not a real profitable business, but it's a cool business.
It's one your heart's in, right? I feel like a little bit.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
at least you're interested in.
Yeah, and I enjoy the community.
Yeah.
So the customers love it. We have a really solid community of customers, and they've all become friends, and it's just kind of like, for me, from my perspective, it's sort of like a community investment, and now it doesn't cost me anything, so it's self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And it's just a cool business, you know, and actually this year, well, actually last year, we started out pretty strong there. Looked like it was going to be our best year yet, and then the pandemic hit, and it barely survived the pandemic, but it made it, and now we're doing pretty well. It seems like the business is healthy, so that's good. Hopefully we'll stay there.
Nice. I feel like for me, I growing up, like I definitely like read a lot of comics. I was more kind of in my own world. Like I had collected like a ton of action figures, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, that was talking about get back to like education. I feel like I learned so much too from like just exploring other narrative things, like for example, like comic books or movies or books that helped me a lot more than anything in school as well. That like part of who I am now is because I probably played with action figures way longer than I probably should have. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I think like what the way I socialized with other people and learned how to communicate and work with other individuals was through like how do they play with action figures.
Oh yeah.
Like that's like actually I would base friendships based on like when you meet with somebody, if they play with action figures like an idiot, I'm like, nah, we can't be friends because you're sitting there just like smacking them together. I'm like, nah, never mind.
No, you've got to be strategic about it.
Yeah. I mean, if there's no plot, no arc, you're not no character development. What are you doing? Just sitting there, just like having like hop and like smacking them on things. I'm like, we can't be friends. So I feel like there's I mean, to me, like people ask like why you're into like certain things. Like I feel like with comics and like movies and stuff, pop cultures like that, it was more of like integrated in like you said, the community, like who we are as individuals. Like I think that's what I've got more out of is like I got to connect with people,
right? Yeah.
Over these movies and stories.
Yeah. I've always loved movies and film.
Yeah,
and that's why I
Same
became
here.
an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a writer. You know, it's all just creativity, just imagination.
Yeah, I think I would go insane if I didn't keep just trying to work on something. I mean, like I had like a slump where like I took some time off of stand up when I went back to school, and
Now, when was this?
mid-20s.
Okay, so you did stand up for how many years before you?
So I did stand up from 19 to like 24.
Okay.
I did stand up pretty consistent, and I started like I was, I don't know if I say unfortunate. I was almost unfortunate that I got noticed pretty quick.
Yeah.
I was like 20 years old, and then like I started getting some like gigs here and there, and then I realized like I was kind of getting booked in some of the wrong places though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And getting kind of like taken under the wing of some of the wrong people.
Yeah.
That they're like, hey, yeah, and then like you do this show and it ends up like packing out, and then everyone's like, oh, but we didn't make enough money to cover at the door. And I was an idiot. I was 20 years old. They're like, well, but they all laugh though, so I mean, next time we'll get some money.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm just this dumb kid who's just telling jokes.
Yeah.
And so then I started like learn a lot more about the business, and then I did work a little bit, and then I hit a point where I saw that doing feature work is going to be living in a hotel every weekend in the middle, because you never get booked when you first start out. You never get booked somewhere nice.
Yeah.
They're booking you in like the really crappy little hole in the wall like comedy clubs. They're going to close down a couple months in a shopping mall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for like 7 people that kind of are only there because they're getting a coupon here to go to the place next door and drink. And so you're doing these shows there, and it's just then you're like you don't really connect with anybody. Then you go home, you sit in the hotel, and you're like, this is terrible. And so I kind of like had a thing where I just wanted to change gears, and I went back to school. And after I got to school, I got into an engineering job, And then
So you went to school to be an engineer?
electronics engineering was my
Nice.
background. Yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
Um,
Now, before we get too far into that,
Uh-huh.
what was your childhood like your family life? What led you to comedy? You know, down
think-
this path? What
so I
started
think the
this?
reason I got into comedy was because my family went through like a lot of stuff early on. My mom was in a really terrible car accident to where she was hospitalized for I think maybe close to a year. We just pretty much lived out of a hospital.
Wow.
And from that
how
moment,
how old were you then?
I was 7 years old.
Oh, it'd be tough.
And so it just became like kind of like the norm of our family. Our family kind of started to accept like some pretty tough things, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I took it on myself as my role to be like to keep everybody in my family laughing.
Okay.
Like I don't know why I did this, but it was like I saw like when my sisters or my father or my grandparents or anybody was like upset, I was like, oh, well, I'll get them smiling.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I think that's where it kind of started, where I took on like that role. And then as I got older and older, I started to realize that was the one skill I had to connect with people.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I can say some really ridiculous shit, and then they're going to like me. Or I can say something really, really stupid, and this girl's going to think I'm funny. And then, so, like, it's something like I didn't do consciously.
Right. Yeah.
I think it just subconsciously started to happen to where, like, I started to, like, subconsciously work on timing or just, like, hey, I'd do that even before I go have a conversation, be like, oh, I'm going to say this, and it's going to be really funny. And I would just catch myself and be like, are you planning a conversation, you idiot? Like, you're planning something funny to say? And,
awesome.
And so I think I wasn't like I was aspiring to be a comedian when I was younger. It was just like I picked up that.
Just had a good sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, and I think I developed it out of necessity.
Yeah.
Because the environment, like when I was a kid, was rough. And because even when that was going on with my mother being, you know, hospitalized, my father was like working nonstop too. You know, he was really busy.
What did he
individual.
do?
So he was an engineer as well. So yeah,
Okay.
Civil engineer. He worked for the Department of Transportation, which I also ended up working for the Department of Transportation. And not, again, things I did not intend on happening, but, you know, self-fulfilling things I think that sometimes just do. And my dad was also, like, he's a subtle, funny person, though. Like, he doesn't, like, a lot of times the funny things my father would say, you wouldn't catch you until you walk away, like, an hour later, like, oh, wait a second, that was actually pretty clever. Like, that was pretty good what he said. And so, like, I think I picked a little bit off of it from him. I don't think my dad knows he's funny.
No, that's funny.
He's not trying to be. It's just the things he says sometimes are funny. And so, yeah, I think that is why I developed a sense of humor. And then as I got older, I just, you know, I started writing a lot. And for something where I just had so much stuff in my head that I was kind of thinking about constantly. It's like, I need to put it down on paper. And I was like, well, how can I get this out? And then somebody mentioned open mic when I was 19. I'm like, all right, well, let me just go see if somebody likes this.
Yeah.
And so from there, I kind of fell into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's to me like back to what I said about the material. I think that's why like I was like always trying to be an escape from my family with humor. And that's what my comedy like because with everything going on right now with like the pandemic, people are like questioning what the economy is going to do. People are like having like a lot of political divide and stuff.
Stressful
Like
time.
I don't want to talk about any of that with my material. Like I'm like that's not what I'm here. Like I'm here to talk about some silly shit. And I want everybody to have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's just a laugh and forget about like
all that nonsense.
anything. Yeah. I mean, every once in a while, like I won't say I'll never mention anything, but it's not my goal.
Right.
My goal is for us to go on a journey to some other place for like however long I'm on stage. And for me, like if I take that mentality in there, I get to go and do that too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's my kind of like my heart in stand up is like just trying to find a way to like escape reality.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually similar to an acting perspective too.
And I fell into some acting too, through my wife. She's an actor. She went to school for theater. She does like a ton of theater.
Okay.
And so I met her because I got into improv to just help my stand up.
Right.
And then I met her on stage doing improv.
Oh.
Yeah. Rode her like a horse in front of her mother. And so it was destined to be from that point.
That's funny.
But
That's hilarious.
So we met on stage. I was getting ready to go on. The scene was like knight in shining armor, and then I was getting ready to go on stage, and this small girl who was brand new to the troupe just stops. And was like, "Can I be your horse?" And I'm like, "I like this girl." And so like I connected with her, and then she was so heavy in acting that I got into it a little bit, and
Yeah.
I did some theater, and I enjoyed it, but I feel like it wasn't the same because I always tell people the biggest difference between theater and stand-up is at the end of a theater show, everybody's like, "Oh, that was really fun." You know, that was great, guys. And like I'm like this, I can't do it. I like to ruminate on what I fucked up.
Well, see, I got into stand-up through acting.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, I can see
So
that.
I started acting 8 years ago, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. But when I started doing stand-up, just because I got into acting and screenwriting 8 years ago, and when I got into stand-up, I wanted to do it so I could learn to write better, like comedically, do better comedic writing, and but I quickly started to fall in love with it. And for me, it's a little more rewarding because it's my art. It's my writing, my performance. It's all my material, and when you're acting, usually it's someone else's creation. You're just interpreting it,
and you have to play off another individual on the stage as well.
Right. Yeah.
Well, stand up,
It's all you. Yeah.
It's purely you. It is on your shoulders, but also you're at the wheel. So like.
Right. Yeah. For sure. So
I got to interrupt you. I just got to ask though, did that turn you on when she asked to be your horse? I've been sitting here holding this for like 3 minutes.
I tell you what. No, I mean like.
I'm just
what I fell in love with though,
me, like the 13-year-old just has got to ask,
I think what I fell in love with my wife though is how quirky and weird it was, right? Like she was like, because it wasn't anything like, she was just like, I want to fucking nail the shit out of being a horse right now. Saddle up, let's go. And for me, I was just like, I think that's why I fell in love with my wife, because I was just like, because like she was just so like unabashed, like I don't give a damn what anybody thinks.
I like it.
You're about to ride me across this stage like a stallion. And I mean,
what's up, man?
Who's getting rid?
What is this creepy dude?
Yeah, he was just telling me about how he met his wife riding her in front of his mom, her mom.
That's what I heard. I was over here just working. And I was like, who's riding the house? Come on, guys, want to pop in?
Yeah, come on
Jump
in,
in here,
yeah.
man.
Jesse, guys, how are ya?
Good, man.
You guys just have vagrants just hanging around.
I live outside in the trash can.
Yeah.
I live outside in the trash can, and I was hungry, and I was like, let me come in and see if they got scraps. And then I heard people talk about riding things. What have you guys been talking about?
Oh, definitely riding stuff. Yeah, him though. He's the only one that's been partaking. I'm when I get home, I'm thinking about it myself though.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it all morning, so I'm fucking super excited that you were talking about it.
I just want to be the horse though. I'm
Hey.
I'm getting older. I think I'm getting a little bit lazy. Just a hair.
I've been on bottom for 12 years now. I've been 98%. I'm on bottom. If I'm on top, it's not fun for nobody.
It's not lasting long.
Yeah, it's not that it doesn't last long. I give up. I don't want that. What's that for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're gonna breathe heavy, and you got to smell my breath. Get out of here. Just get on top and let me nap when we're done.
That's right.
Hell yeah. Bringing the energy real quick in the morning. You guys were having a fun conversation when I walked in here. That's fantastic.
Eric's like, you guys talking about sex in here?
you guys,
Who's riding who?
did you guys ask Alex about his weird fucking life? Like you talk about your job and
I did a little bit. I don't want to talk about where I work though, because I feel like as a government official.
Well, I can talk
yeah.
about
Oh, yeah,
it.
you
So
go.
anyway, no. Hashtag let's get Alex fired. Let's get Alex fired so he only does comedy forever now.
I do like. I'm not like. I generally keep those two lives so separate because I feel like people in that realm of my life do not understand stand up at all, and they don't understand like me on stage. That's me, but that's not really me.
Right,
That's
yeah,
an
yeah.
exaggeration of me.
Yeah.
And
Or the you in real life is the watered down version of you.
yeah, maybe that too. Maybe that's part of it. But I think just people that just tuck their shirt in every day and go working 9 to 5. Like, I think it just scares them so much that somebody does. Even just the idea that somebody goes and tells jokes on stage.
Right.
That people would start to question like probably my professionalism maybe a little bit. Like, and it
They
has
think
no
you're
effect.
crazier.
Yeah.
They think you're crazy. It's I was telling you about the quote yesterday. This kid JJ at the comedy festival, fucking hilarious, and he gave me a quote, and I was like, oh my god, where's that from? And he said Morticia Adams. He said, normal is an illusion. What's what's chaos for the fly is normal for the spider. And I was like, oh shit, right?
good
And
quote.
so all these people who you work with just when you're out telling dick jokes to people, they're like, that's a waste of time. But it's like if you wrote a crazy movie and everybody just believed that's what you believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a little bit of fantasy in it.
Right.
I've known comedians who have lost their jobs because of people posting tapes of them on YouTube.
That's
It's
ridiculous.
wild.
Well, then, like me working for the government, like I just, and that's another thing too, is like if the public has an opinion on me, that could put my job in jeopardy probably.
Right.
And the fact that I do jobs like we were just talking about, like the joke I do about Satanism.
Right.
I mean, yeah, obviously it's ridiculous that I'm not like, because I'm not making deals with the devil and stuff
your
like
garden.
that, and I have a pentagram in my backyard. But if some sort of like citizen,
And so you don't worship Satan?
I mean, listen, I keep
Come
it
on,
on the
man.
low.
Nobody's seen the
I don't
pentagram
worship.
tattoo
I just have
you
a
have
good
on your
relationship.
chest? Nobody's seen the big pentagram
Just
you
a
have on your
big goat
chest?
head.
Yeah.
Just a bleeding goat head. But like, yeah, like if people like see that, like they're just like typical like citizens of where I work, and then they're like, wait, that guy? I need to make a call to my city council. I'm gonna make sure he get like, I mean, because
We can't have him doing this work while he's talking about how unicorns are the most majestic animals of all
exactly.
time.
Well, this is an intervention to get you to leave that boring job.
Yeah, that's actually why I've been here. How do
how-
I get Alex fired is what I would need to know. That's the one question. That's
It wouldn't be
pressing.
that hard.
Let's find out tomorrow.
I'm wondering if the horse story with your wife is going to do it. You know?
Well, if they see the seance that we're going to do after this,
Yeah. We filmed
does,
that in the
yeah.
other studio. Big seance and Sage. You're getting back into comedy more often now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how does it feel for you?
Good. I think I'm finally at that stage where I'm back in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, you know,
You lost your confidence for a little while.
yeah, because you bounce in and out, and you start to question. Like, I mean, anytime you spend time out of stand up, you start to say, like, "Fuck, am I even funny anymore?"
When you're doing it, you think that.
Yeah.
So when you're not doing it, you think it even more. You know, it's like people who are good at a thing feel fraudulent, and then the people who aren't feel like they're the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
So I think yeah, like when I first got back into it, I started to question my writing, my timing, like do I even have it anymore? And then it only took like a few shows to kind of get back into it. Like, all right. I remember like you start to get that.
It's that first laugh,
Uh-huh.
and then the first set you have with 3 laughs, and then the first set you have that's good. And once you get past that, it's like, okay, I'm back, and it's just a little bit more work than I remember.
What I felt though, the first set where I allowed myself to play on stage, right? Like
Because you're a playful,
I-
little pixie man.
I am. I am a very playful little pixie man. And like, so the time that like I was like, I could feel it in my shoulders. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I'm feeling this joke right now.
That's
I can
awesome.
always see when it's going to be good. He had a set this week at one of the open mics. I think I have video of it. And he went up, and it was when you were talking about how comedians, we all say we're artists, but none of us are actually artists.
Oh,
and
yeah.
as someone who considers himself kind of an artist, I was in the booth ready to interrupt you and be like, wait a minute. But then you dug a hole for a minute and a half where everybody in the room was firmly ready
Against
to
what I was
disagree.
saying. Yeah.
And then he spun it around and made the point, and we were like, he ain't wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, because it was like that late night mic where it's all comics, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying to the crowd, I'm like, you guys are not artists, and I can see everybody's taking offense. Everybody's like, hold up, bro. But yeah, when I brought it back to Vincent Van Gogh, I could feel everybody's like, okay, that's good. Yeah, it's like that confidence to dig a hole, knowing like, just
That you
wait, I
can't
know
get
where
out
this is
of it?
going. You guys just shut up and wait. When I get to the bottom of this hole, I'm gonna laugh my way out of it. Like,
Is there anything similar in business where it's like, I mean, I guess that's the investment, right? The initial investment to start something up. You can lose all of that before you make anything, and you have to be willing to dig that hole before you can crawl your way out of it.
I think you wanna go first.
Well,
No,
I mean,
you go first, because
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah.
So if we were looking at it from my perspective, but I could come at it, but let's come at it from other people's perspective. Other people, the audience, are the bystanders that are watching the investment, and they think we're digging a hole.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where I think it matches perfectly. And what they don't understand is that we already know that we're going to laugh our way out of the hole.
yeah.
And they're going to laugh.
Yeah.
They're going to laugh with us until they cry.
Or at least we believe we're more likely to than not.
Yeah, once your batting average is high enough, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he knew he was confident enough because of the time he's put into it and his experience and the sacrifice that he's made to know that that you have to dig down sometimes to go up.
It's that. It's the planning, the pre-production, the
100%.
work you put in before,
Well,
right?
it's also everything that's worth doing. People try to talk you out of.
That's true.
Well, they either try to talk you out of it directly or indirectly,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like either, hey, that's not going to work, or what I'm noticing recently is I think when I'm talking, people think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of fucking ideas, and I'm actually going to do a lot of the shit I'm saying. But when that's what I'm realizing is when you're about to do crazy stuff, people look at you like you're crazy until they see you do it.
It's
Well,
scary.
And then they want to be part of it.
That's
And then
true.
they want to be part of
Yeah.
it. And it's going to be
Yeah,
too
that's right.
fucking late.
That's right. So, there's this thing. So I've never had somebody that was in a higher status in life, as far as in business, right? Or somebody that was a motivator or an entrepreneur that was elevated. They were looking up. I've never had one of those people take a shit on me. Literally, like they're not worried. Like a guy that's worth $1 billion is not worried about a guy that's worth $1 million, right? Like he doesn't have anything negative. He's not discouraging him. I've always been those guys that have been above me
Lift you up.
have tried to lift me up, right?
That's the empathy and the understanding of the situation, right? Like, because those people are the ones who understand the work. The people who haven't gotten there don't understand the work, because if
Yeah.
they understood the work, they'd be there.
Well, the ones that haven't gotten there,
Me.
here's a good indicator of whether or not they're going to get there. If all they do is try to throw shit on you, right? They cast shade. They tell you it's not going to work. They put all this doubt into you. They tell you every reason they're not. What they're literally doing is trying to throw shit up in the air, right? Because you're above them, right? And it's just going to land back in their face,
Hell yeah.
right? Because nobody that's ever been upward with upward momentum, I've never seen those people take a shit on the people beneath them.
It is more, Neil's been good for me on this. It's like, I've noticed whenever we're standing in circles and anyone starts talking about anybody else, he just puts his head down and waits. And now what I do is I make direct eye contact and then walk away. I just, and I was talking to a couple of my friends yesterday and we're trying to do some stuff, and they're like, one of them said they were watching something. It was like, this guy's dumb. And I said, how do you know that? You just met him. You haven't even talked to him. You know what I mean? And it's like, we got to remove that so that we can understand. It's when you walk on stage and all those, that's why comedians are so specific with the type of clothes they wear, because it used to be good-looking comics. It was really difficult for good-looking comics. And you probably got a little bit of this for sure when you first started. People walk out and they're like, you're not going to say nothing stupid. You spend all your time in the gym, dummy. You know what I mean? Like, you got nothing to say to me. And it's like, no, you're a fully
Your
formed
jaw
person.
is too square to be funny. Get out of here. Like,
Which, I'll be honest, might be true. It's a very square fucking jaw. You're too pretty to be good at fucking comedy. But you're figuring out, but those are the preconceived notions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, once you see people actually do things, it's, it's
Yeah.
different.
I just think we take the tact of I'm not going to discourage, even if I'm not really disagreeing with your path. It's your path.
Yeah.
If you want to run it in the ground, run it in the ground.
Yeah.
And my thing is if that's your goal, you better run it in the fucking ground. Like whatever it is you want to do, just do it. I'm not going to take a shit on you at all. Like, I'm going to encourage you to pursue whatever it is you think will make you happy. Mm-hmm. This is my path, right?
Well, I know that that's true because that's what you guys are doing for me. You guys have been encouraging and pushing me to make stuff, and that encouragement and trust is allowing me to make super special stuff. Make sure to check out Never Been Happier podcast coming soon.
Yeah, that's right.
that was it.
Shameless plug.
That's why I was here. Now I'm going to take off. Bye, guys.
That was one 15-minute long stretch to get on the podcast.
I was on the other side of the curtain, double dutching, like, wait to talk about fucking. And then you did, and boom, now we're talking about my podcast. See how I did that?
Yeah.
What do you got coming up, man? What do you...
So coming up next is Twin City Stand Up. It's a show I'm producing, a stand-up showcase show I'm producing in downtown Winston-Salem. It's been going pretty well. It's one of those things where I think producing a live show is really scary right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. It's hard to gauge the water of who's going to come out and who wants to come out and who doesn't.
Right.
But it's going well. And then after that, October 2nd at the Milton Road Center in Winston-Salem, Bunker Dogs, the improv troupe that my wife and I co-run, is finally coming back for its first show in 2 years almost.
Wow.
That was some of the first fun shows I did, was the Bunker Dog stuff that you guys were doing in Winston in that big building with the...
Community Arts Cafe.
Yeah, Community Arts Cafe. It was
well,
cool.
that was we were called Naked Feet back then.
That's right.
And it was the show was called Comedy Potluck.
Yeah, I have that video. I have a 10-minute video of me like a year into comedy telling dick jokes to like people with their kids.
Because it was a swanky place. It was
Yeah,
like
it was
like
they had a
it was like
piano.
wine, yeah, there's a grand piano on the stage. It was like a wine bar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and like it was way too classy for what we were doing.
I used to feel like whenever anybody would ask me to go do a nice show, I'm like, you've seen what I do, right? Because I wasn't very versatile back then. We were going to talk about pooping and fucking, and regardless of who was in the room, that's what was coming out.
But honestly, it was surprising me though. Like even though it was like a upscale crowd, I mean they ate it up though. I mean most of the time like they
were always good, yeah.
Yeah. I think that place. The only reason that show ended is because Community Arts Cafe closed down, which was such a great idea.
Cool building. It had it's in Winston on a corner, and it had it was like a downtown mall basically. Like you walked in, they had some food and stuff, and then you go up and down steps to different. They had the cafe, they had some
Art
office
galleries.
space, an art gallery. Yeah, it was really
And then
cool.
down the bottom was an underground theater, and it was perfect theater for stand up because it was like low ceiling, all the focus on the stage, real low stage. It was like right there on the audience, so it was like real intimate. And then Jim and Kathy Tedder were the people that ran that business. It was great for so long because their goal was to actually make it like an actual community arts venue. Like this is where artists in the city hang out, do their shows, and I mean they didn't like they let us keep stuff from the door. You know, they still try to sell some wine, stuff like that. So they didn't ask for a lot of money for it. And this is when we were just starting out, so we needed a venue. Like, I think the only reason things grew into what they are now in Bunker Dogs, the improv troupe, is as successful as it is because it started on that platform of Community Arts Cafe, which is what I'm trying to do with Twin City and Bunker Dogs a little bit now. Is we're trying to be more community organizations for comedians and artist stuff. Oh, that's great.
With the job that you have now, and with you getting back into doing comedy, do you have an idea of what you want that mix to be ideally? Like what percentage of your work do you want to be stand-up? If you could be full-time, would that be it? Or are you looking for other stuff? Are you staying in the job you have now forever if everything goes great? Like what's the...
I think my goal now is actually to get more into writing and producing. Like I'm actually having a lot of fun producing stuff I'm producing, kind of more behind-the-scenes stuff.
Shows or...
Shows, yeah. I'm never going to stop doing stand-up. But I don't think I have that pursuit to be a famous stand-up comedian anymore.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it you just don't care for the lifestyle, or is it the type of work you have to do? Is there something that's keeping it, or is it just a stand-up that you don't need to do like you used to?
I don't think I have the need to prove anything with it anymore.
Okay. Well, that's a great place to be, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I enjoyed about this past week, like I got into that comfort zone with stand-up right before the festival. And so then we had that thing. I mean, like there's guys like Mello, Tom Simmons, Jordan Fisher, Anthony Crawford, Andy Forrester, who all these guys
name dropper.
Yeah, whatever. Like, all these guys that like I knew from when I started, were there, and it felt good to just be around that old crowd of comics
and hold your own, right?
Yeah. Feeling like, that conference, like, okay, even though I took a hiatus, I come back into this, and I feel like I can still hang with a lot of these guys who I saw as like the best comics in the area.
I mean, you've always been good, and the only thing that's ever kept you from being the best person on the show is that stupid job you have. You know what I mean?
I mean, I did a joke about because actually right before the pandemic, I was about to quit. I think you were at that show.
I'm gonna get these guys to quit their jobs and just do stand up full time. That's my goal.
I want to do my first one. I've been talking about it for a while now, but I don't know that
we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
we're gonna figure it out.
If I was the if I was the me in business, I would be like, this guy's never going to do it. He just keeps talking about it. But
I got you.
Yeah.
The way you encourage me for business stuff, I'm going to encourage you for the
Fair
comedy
enough.
stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen.
Well, I've been inspired. I may need to include my wife in this. Maybe make her a prop. She can be the cowgirl.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
do some on stage improv. Maybe get ridden. That could be fun.
I think that's called a swingers party.
I wonder if we can make some money at the door.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive we could. There's an audience for everything. I mean, I'd watch
that
it.
kind of show has a money. You just got to put a red curtain over the door.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Might be illegal in North Carolina, but we'll figure it out. We'll just time travel to Virginia on the other side of this curtain.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's allowed if you just call it art.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's funny. So when I was in New York, in New York and Boston, I used to do these naked shows. and you could perform naked, and in New York the crowd would be naked too. And I did my first naked show when I was, I think, 3 months into comedy, maybe less. I was a month and a half into comedy actually, and I did a naked show. I showed up, and a buddy got me on, and I came back with a ton of confidence after that, because it's like, that's the literal nightmare. And then every time I go to New York, I do one, and I think there's a video somewhere. Oh, God damn it, somebody's going to find it now. I think there's a video floating around somewhere of me doing a 45-minute set naked.
Wow.
Listen, somebody delete my search history later, please. Something happens to me.
I want someone when I die to publish my search history. Fuck it, I'm dead. Let everybody know how weird I was.
You know, it'd be weirder if you do it and it's just all normal stuff.
Yeah.
How to file your taxes properly.
That wouldn't be on my phone.
Like, you were the most normal guy out of all of us. Like,
On my phone is Morticia Adam quotes and pornography.
what's your go-to porn source there?
Oh, jeez. Old videos of exes.
Oh, there you go.
I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I don't have any exes. We don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
Say something funny.
I got nothing. I feel like that's the worst thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. That's
say
why I
something-
did it.
That's why, like, I hate. I never tell people that don't know. Like, if I'm at a show, people know I'm a comic. If they don't know I'm a comic, I don't introduce that into conversation, because
Yeah.
there's expectation of being like right now, say a setup punchline with no context.
I was downtown. Jordan Fisher introduced me to this very gorgeous woman at a bar after a show that we had both just done and done well. And he was too young for this woman, and he was like, "This is my friend Eric. He's a comedian." And she's like, "Oh, tell me a joke." And I was pretty sad. And I looked her in the eyes and I said, "I was molested as a kid." And then she walked away. But that is one
a
of my
normal
jokes,
response.
technically. You know what I mean? Like, you asked. I didn't give you the setup.
Yeah.
I get paid for the setups.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, you can't. It's not like a pun or
Yeah.
or a riddle. You know, it's got to be in context.
Yeah.
So you low key feel like some sense of, like, you know, you're in that conversation, you got a 5, 6, 7 people, and one of them is like, "You should be a comedian. You're really funny." You ever have that happen, and you kind of like a light bulb goes off, and you like this, maybe like your heart just, you know,
Yeah. Validation. Because, yeah, there's no context. Like,
you
oh,
know
there
what?
it
I
is.
am a comedian.
After the fact validation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they know you're a comedian, then
Yeah.
there's judgment there.
That's right,
They're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"No, prove you're funny to me."
What's fun, one of the best things you can do next time you're at a show, whoever does well, watch them for 10 minutes. That same person, when they don't do well, they'll walk the room in a different way, and if they do well, they'll walk it differently to gather the compliments. It happens all the time, and comics don't even realize they do it. But when you get off and somebody's like, "Great job," that really does fill you up. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, ideally they're telling us why we're on stage with the noises and the faces that they
Yeah.
make. But the words afterwards are also, when you're needy, that's pretty tasty.
If I have a
Yeah.
bad set, I'm out of there pretty quick.
You avoid everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So I've got a little bit of a curse with, because I try, unfortunately, with business and negotiation, like, I really try to learn people mannerisms, the way they speak, where their eyes are looking, like,
Yeah.
and then if you watch people long enough, you start to figure out some of these things are broad and general and apply to everybody, but some things are very specific to individuals, like what you're saying. So when I'm there, I've noticed that it's actually kind of interesting. Some people, the ones that literally when they bomb, like they just like they're high, like they're.
Oh,
But when
yeah.
they do well, they're like social butterfly, hopping around group to group to group, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's
I
how
just
it
try
is.
to talk to everybody, and
Me
I
too.
try to remember, because I've been a few times, and if I can remember something about their other set and I notice something different, I just try to focus on, hey, I saw this different angle or this different thing, and that way I'm talking about some type of something constructive and be like, oh, I saw how you did that different thing this way, right? Because you can find something positive to say about anybody.
I mean, and you almost have to, right?
Yeah.
And you've been to a lot of open mics, and those are,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes intentionally bad. The thing that people don't realize when they are doing comedy, I think, is they think, oh, I got to write a new 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes every week, and you really don't. You just need one new laugh a week. If you can get a new 15 to 30 seconds a week, At the end of the year, you have 26 minutes. That's a half-hour special.
Yeah.
And so 30 seconds a week, one laugh. Can you suffer through the other bad 3.5 minutes without murdering yourself and jerking the car off the side of the road and just take that one win? Or, hey, this was good. What did I do differently? And we get in such, because we are artists, we emotionally chop our ears off with bad sets. You know what I mean? And I think being a little more forgiving of that type of thing is a big deal.
So as somebody that's only been in the crowd, and I had a little sabbatical here this last 4 or 5 weeks. I just went last week, obviously, but on Tuesday. But what was the thing that Neil graduated from? The school.
Oh, we took the comedy workshop.
The comedy workshop, like the whole class, right? So I went to Neil's.
Oh yeah, the 5-week workshop.
Yeah. So Neil was participating in this 5-week workshop, right? And
basically, what you do is you come in. It's 5 weeks, and we try to get you to a passable 4 or 5 minutes, and then we have a graduation show. We invite friends and family, and everybody's like super cool about it.
Yeah. So I went to that, and honestly had no clue what to expect at that point, right? And I actually kind of went to that and fell in love with it.
Mostly brand new people.
Yeah,
right?
brand new people, and fell in love with it. And some of it's really raw. But what's really interesting is, of that group, and when I've been going, I've seen people really come along, and so seeing some of those same people, just this last week, it's like, wow, some of the material is almost identical, except it's just there's little tweaks, the way that the timing, the words they use maybe, or whether with the inflection points. Some of them have gotten better callback. It's really interesting.
I use jokes I wrote 10 years ago, and they were bad when I used to do them, and now they're better. Here's the analogy I always give these kids is, don't get rid of any of your material. The material's not the problem. The joke isn't the problem. If you thought the joke was funny, it is good. In Kill Bill, there's a swordsman, Hattori Hanzo. He makes the best swords in the world. That's why they drop the bride off there to go train with these swords. When she first gets there, she's clumsy with the sword. Maybe she can cut a watermelon or something, right? But she trains for a year, and she's brutalized and learns. And then a year later, she's a master with it. The sword never changed.
Yep.
The sword was funny
that.
the whole time. You got better at using it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I tell this joke. I wrote this joke out of spite a long time ago because people told me I was just always sad at the open mics. So I went home, I took a bunch of pills, and I flipped around the TV, and I was like, what's the dumbest thing people like? And I found this show, Cupcake Wars. And I started doing this bit, Cupcake Wars, just...
I remember Cupcake Wars.
Yeah, as a dick. And people laughed at it, and then people made fun of it. And 6 months ago, one of my old buddies was like, oh, Cupcake Wars. And I was like, oh, shit, that's a funny bit. And I took it on stage, and here's what happened. When I used to tell it, I was telling it because I wanted it to be unfunny. And now it's silly, and I wasn't silly back then. I've caught up to it, and that bit's good now. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I think that's the difference, though, between good comics and people that are mediocre or not good, is that, you can have a funny idea and come up with it, but someone who's willing to, notice, how to improve my timing, how to improve, people that are willing to make those tiny course corrections throughout their stand-up career, those are the people that get better, and then eventually they just, when, like I said, you look back at them and be like, I wouldn't even thought that was the same person that did that poorly.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that, you notice, hey, maybe if I tweak the wordplay here, I tweak the timing here, and be comfortable with, look, it's not great off the bat, but that's fine. You'll fix it. That's what I tell myself all the time, because I think some people, when they get there, if it's not funny initially, you just suck. That's it. I'm done with it.
Well, and that's where encouragement comes into play, right? Yeah. I've been telling people a lot recently that and I was just about to ask you this is a good lead-in, but there were 3 people who I met when I first started comedy that I wouldn't be doing comedy without. I met my buddy Jordan Fisher at my first open mic. He was years ahead of me and years younger than me, but I saw him in the same room I was in being really good, so that told me that level of funny is attainable in this room.
Right.
And then I met my buddy Evan Williams, who started the open mic before me, and that gave me somebody to tether to and be accountable on for the first year of misery and going through a shared experience. And then I met Steve Lesser, who just told me to come back. And without that, maybe I don't, because maybe the first time is bad and you get pushed away. And how do you know? It's like if somebody goes up and plays the guitar on stage and all the comics are like, fuck you, stop it, you hack. What if that guy was going to be good at that guitar after the 5th time? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's super important to leave that be.
Yeah.
Who were the people early on for you in comedy or at all who encouraged you or supported you, and Was there anybody that did those types of things for you?
Mello was one.
Mello, man. Have
Met-
you guys met Mello? You've met Mello.
I didn't really
Mello
meet
Ma-
him. I saw him.
He was around this week.
It's funny.
We did this show with, it was one of my favorite shows that I've done in a while because these are the guys I started with who I looked up to. It was Anthony Crawford, Jordan Fisher, and Mello Mike. Like, these guys are my brothers, and they've been doing it a lot longer, and he's one of the best.
The reason I owe him like a huge debt of gratitude is when I was starting out, I was this is my first year in, less than my year like in comedy, maybe like 6 months. And so I'd done Comedy Zone, a few other places around here, and it was like the first time I was going to branch out to another city to go do stand-up somewhere else far away, which Raleigh wasn't really far away. But I went to Good Nights, and it was my first experience at Good Nights. And Good Nights is intimidating, right? Because like you walk in and you see
Big
all those
room,
like
big stage.
and then
It
you
looks
see, like,
professional.
yeah, and then like I walk
The
in and you
pictures.
have pictures of like Chris Rock and like Jerry Seinfeld signed photographs.
When you
of
go
everybody.
into a club and you see the weight of it, it throws you off. I was
Yeah.
on stage at Caroline's in New York, and it happened in the Improv in Chicago as well. I was on stage, and sometimes when I'm thinking, I look down, and this was when I first started going up with no idea, and I just try to find something. And so I'd put my head down and close my eyes, and I'd open them and try to see something that triggered anything. And what I saw was my feet were standing on stage, and I thought to myself, Chris Rock has stood here, Dave Attell has stood here, everybody I loved stood there, and it threw me off. It's on video, and there's 15 seconds, and I was like, holy shit. And I came up, and I was like, I can't believe I'm here. And then I went into, you know what I mean? And it really did throw me off. And seeing those pictures when you walk into a good venue of the people that have been there, it's validating
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're there, but it's jarring
Yeah,
because it's like if you walked onto the set of your favorite TV show out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of pressure and things to it.
It's like that. I mean, because then you have like imposter syndrome. Like, shit, I don't belong here. Like,
Yeah.
like. But so when I walk in and like I'm already like intimidated a little bit, and like Mello was there, and like I remember I walked in, he's sitting at the bar being cool as shit like he always is, and he was sitting there like drinking his hand, telling the story, and I noticed all the other comics are just circled around him, just listening to him tell the story. And I'm like, well, who the fuck is this guy? Like, clearly, like, he must be somebody, like, that everybody knows because, like, everybody was just, like, glued to what Mello was saying. And then I learned later on, it's just he's that charismatic. But, like, I had a terrible set. Did awful. And then he was just like, he's like, man, don't even worry about it. I had a bad set last week, too. And it was just, like, a small, simple thing. But I'm like, it's this dude that, like, everybody kind of was invested in. Everybody thought was funny. And he just told me he had a bad set just to, like, give me, like, a word of, like, comfort word, just, like, it's not even a big deal. Well, like, if him not saying something to me, I may not have gone back. But the fact that the guy that was, like, clearly the most respected there reached out to me.
A few weeks ago, I think I said it to you, and maybe on the podcast, it's when the funniest person on the show talks to you, it's a gift. And it's not the gift that they're giving you, but it's a gift that you get.
Right.
Because you can trust that he's been through it if he's the funniest person on the show.
Yeah.
Well, and so what you just said is basically an example of somebody that's succeeded or is succeeding in their craft, and they're not taking the shit on the guy beneath them.
There we
right?
go.
Yeah.
Right, and they've
had the shit
Exactly.
experience. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, and that's like the thing. Like somebody that's really gonna do well, they're never gonna be the guy I think that's taking a shit on everybody.
They understand that there's enough food for everybody.
100%.
And that's one thing that has kind of kept comedians and maybe artists, but mostly comedians, from organizing a little better and taking care of each other. Is sometimes with the comedy industry, the way that things get booked and blah blah blah, you kind of pitted against each other. It's like, oh, there's only enough work for this guy. And I remember when somebody I knew got a Doug Stanhope show when I thought I deserved it. And I was pretty upset about it because I was funnier than that guy. And then right before the show, I realized however he got it, he deserved it. And I was happy for him. And I went and I supported and I was just super excited for him. And then the next year, I got the show. You know what I mean? And it comes to you. There's enough work for everybody. And if we support each other and help each other and encourage each other, then we're gonna all be better.
Well, I think too, Neil invited me out. I don't know what his original motivation was, right? For when you graduated from the class.
Oh yeah, just to come out and watch the.
Yeah, I mean, you were a little proud of what you did too, right?
Yeah,
You worked
yeah.
you worked diligently on stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's important because like I was always a huge fan of comedy, right? Growing up, I spent a lot of time at Comedy Zone with because Paul, Paul Talley and my dad were friends, and anyway, it reignited that. And I think what I'm getting at is that everybody that's in that don't be afraid to invite people, invite them over and over and over again until they come, because like you don't know what you're missing until you're back there, until you get that laugh, and like it's therapeutic.
A caveat to that is invite the people who support you,
Right, yeah,
and
yeah.
not the people who you hope support you.
Right. Yeah, that's
because if you invite a bunch of people to your open mic and it's stinky, and it will be, they will not. If you would have gone to his and he'd have ate it all, he might not have gone back. The fact that you're supportive, and you would have broke his balls a little bit if it wasn't good, but you still would have been like, fuck yeah, you tried because you're an encouraging guy and you're not throwing shit in the air, right? But somebody who doesn't feel that way could, and that's the same reason I tell people when they first start, it's like, tape your sets, but don't post your sets.
Yeah.
Because you're going to improve. Invite a lot of people out when you know you have at least something.
Right.
It's fine to let people watch you work, but it's not the best to let people watch you figure it all out.
Right,
first,
right,
you know what I mean?
Want a fun factoid?
Yes, please.
I've never, 14 years, I've never invited my parents to ever see me do stand-up.
Really? Yeah, I've never met your parents.
They've never came.
Well, after what you did with your mother-in-law, I mean, I got it. Yeah.
But like, and it's not that like, I think people say like, oh, your parents not supportive, and I'm like, it's more like, that's not who I was doing it for, maybe anyway. Like, but also like,
it might have been doing it to get away from that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, because like I was telling them before I got here, like I was always the funniest person in my family, and it was like known that I'm the funniest person because like we went through a lot of traumatic stuff when I was young, and my goal was like to try to make everybody feel better, and so like I'm like I don't really need to do that. I don't need to prove that to my family. Like they know. It's almost like this gift that I used to give to my family.
Right.
I want to now try to see if I can do it for myself by telling jokes to other people.
I got to ask. So you said you spent a year in the hospital. Your mother spent a year in the hospital when you were like 7.
Yeah.
You never concluded that. I'm assuming she's alive and well still?
She is.
Okay.
Actually, I mean.
Because now I'm sitting there going, wait a second.
She's a really strong-willed, stubborn person, and that's why she was in a horrible car accident, crushed her legs. She had some head trauma. And so, yeah, I was 7 years old, and it was a rough situation because I remember the day it happened, like they pulled us out of school. And they take us to my grandparents' house, and they still weren't telling us anything. I'm like, it's got to be bad because nobody's saying anything to me. What's going on? And so they sit us down, and they tell, like, initially they didn't know if my mom was going to make it. I mean, it was really rough. And then, like, they kind of tell us that. So I'm like 7 years old. And so I just, as a kid, start preparing for my mother to die.
Wow.
And then
preparing for your mother to die when you're 7 years old.
Yeah.
I mean.
And you won't even invite her to a comedy show.
You know, she could probably use a giggle, Alex. Stop being so selfish.
I think, like, you know.
How do you prepare yourself for your mother to die when you're 7 years old? What's the thought process?
I just, like, started thinking about, like.
She's going to, was it panic?
Yeah, it was panic.
Was it panic or prepreparation?
Panic. It was more thing like that. Because, I mean.
Did anybody see you panicking, or did you do that on your own?
I mean, I think I just started crying. And I mean, my grandparents and my father and my sisters were there.
At 7, though, you don't.
It's hard to process.
Yeah, it's like you. You feel afraid and sad, but you're not really sure why. I remember when my grandfather was dying. I was about the same age, and my parents were working on some other stuff, so I was staying at my grandparents' house a little later in the day, and I would be there with my grandfather in the back room, dying of cancer, and I was. Really anxious, and I would cry, and I was never that way around my grandparents. I was at their house a lot, but it was just during that time I knew that it was really serious and really bad, but I didn't understand death, and I didn't understand why my grandfather was so sick, you know, and I couldn't talk to him or spend time with him. So it was just a really just it was more of a feeling than an understanding.
Yeah.
What I was feeling.
A weight almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if your experience was kind of like that too.
Yeah, I mean, look, because it was just so daunting, and I think the fact was at that point in time there were no answers. Like it was like, listen, the premise was like your mother was in a really terrible car accident.
Wow.
And we don't know a lot what's going on right now, and she's in the hospital, and we're just gonna stay here with the grandparents for a little bit.
Yeah.
Until things get sorted out. And then so like after that they were like. I always chalk this up to my mother was so strong-willed, and I say stubborn in a positive way. She was a very strong, stubborn person that, like, there were so many milestones. I remember them kind of like just conversations here my parents and my grandparents or, like, people at the hospital talk about, like, they didn't think she would ever walk again. She ended up walking again. And she still, to this day, I mean, she struggles through, like, a lot of pain in her legs, but she still, to this day, walks. You know, when they told her back then that it probably wasn't ever going to happen. But at that point in time, like, I think I just wanted to always, probably from that moment of being afraid, maybe just I don't want to be afraid anymore, so I'm going to be silly.
Right.
And I just stuck where I'm like, I'm just going to be silly all the time and say nonsensical stuff. I think that's why I never do jokes about real shit, because I want my jokes to be, like I said before, an escape.
To us,
Yeah.
pull you out of that stuff. What did your mother do before the accident?
She was
She was a marathon runner.
yeah, well, she was
Stock
actually
car driver.
yeah. She was going to nursing school.
Okay.
She actually she ended up finishing nursing school, and she was a nurse for a long time. She's still to this day like does some like freelance like hospice care stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So she's
Very cool.
yeah. It was to me though. I feel like back to my parents never inviting them. It's not that like I don't want them there. It's just like I don't think I know what's their thing and what's not their thing.
Right. It's just not their thing.
Yeah. And I think if I invited my parents there, they would have to go through the act of like, oh, that was really great. I kind of said some weird stuff, freaked me out a little bit. And I was
let's
just
talk
like,
about Jesus.
yeah, I was like, you know what? I don't need to put them through that, because I think they.
Yeah.
But my dad because he's asked me questions before, like and stuff about it. And I think through the grapevine or maybe online, he's seen some little stuff here and there, and he's like, still doing comedy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it's good. And that's it. That's enough for us.
Yeah.
That's kind of enough. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Well, you have to know your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family's not my audience.
Nor your coworkers.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
I prefer to have a show where I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
I truly enjoy not
How
knowing.
come? I mean, I understand why that's true for me, but why is it true for you?
I think because I feel more. There's no stakes. I can be more playful. Man, I just feel like
Defend yourself.
There's a sense of like I don't give a shit if they believe this is me or not.
Maybe no consequences.
And also, they don't know if that's me or not.
Right.
There's more sense of disbelief. Like with my family, they kind
I
of
get
like
that,
family
yeah.
friends are like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, but he's kind of making that up. But I feel like because my jokes are so grounded, like in fantasy,
Yeah.
I feel like if nobody knows me, they're like, is this dude really this fucking ridiculous?
That's fair.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Or is this a bit? And I feel like I can play more.
I think you don't give yourself enough credit.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think I've known you for a very long time, and I still enjoy watching you every time because you're a silly, silly pixie. And I think even the people that do know you, I think it informs their other opinions about you. You know, if this is Alex off stage, that's also Alex on stage. I think you're more Alex on stage than when you're off.
I mean, you're probably right.
And I've known you for 10 years now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So that thing, remember, we've talked about this before. I thought we did, but a prophet is never a prophet in his own town, something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's part of what that is? Like, you know, you're you don't want to be around your town, your home, your people that know you, because you want to go out
You're
there and be a
Alex.
prophet. You want to be the real you, right?
Yeah.
Undressed. It's your version of getting naked.
Well, people that know you really well can take you for granted.
I think also back to what you said. I know that extreme. Let's call it like just the Alex on stage. I think it scares people that I care about them, and I don't want to scare and make them uncomfortable.
You kind of remind me of Alex from Madagascar, the lion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like the performing lion. You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, I've seen
Does
that.
anybody else? You got kids, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't. But I watch cartoons.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know why this whole time it just clicked. I just pictured you like on Pride Rock.
So
and
now we got to
you're-
make a T-shirt with a
Yeah.
lion's head with his
Yeah.
face on it.
and
Here
you
we go.
do your roar at the end, and your hands are like this.
Yeah, I need this pose.
Yeah, 100%. It's you.
But yeah, I feel like you're probably right. I think that is like I am more of who I am on stage, but I don't want to make. I care enough about like my friends and family that I'm like I get that freaks you guys out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna trick you in to doing comedy full time, and then we're gonna shoot something in front of just people you know.
That would be funny.
I actually gotta go. I got so much.
Okay, man.
What's that sound? Is something?
I do hear something.
I don't know what's happening. I think maybe I'm having a stroke. Am I really here
I hear
right
it too.
now?
Yeah, it sounds like water.
Then Eric just evaporates.
Is it raining?
It's not raining.
Somebody's washing something. I got a friend out there. He's probably taking a shower. He's homeless.
Did you start a side business outside?
Actually, I got some stuff I got to talk to you guys about. I set up some showers outside. It's $5 an hour. It's not, it's not a great deal. Not a big money maker. I'm not the business guy. You guys got to keep me on track. I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna leave you guys.
I'm gonna follow you out so I can piss though.
All right. Yeah, that's probably what's happening out there. Anyways, yeah, we got to go film this fucking special tonight. I'm very excited.
Well,
You coming out to Monstercade tonight?
We can wrap it up.
I
almost
know it's
one.
tonight.
Come out to
Okay.
tonight's the get together fun times. We're gonna get on stage and just have a good one. You should come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The show's tomorrow.
The recording is tomorrow. We're shooting our first special for the TCB Studios. It's gonna be. Me and Neil went yesterday. I think I felt like when you're doing cool stuff and you talk a lot about it with people, they think you're crazy. That's why I was excited. Neil got in there yesterday. About 10 minutes in there, he was like, "Fuck yeah, we're gonna do it." And it's going to look amazing. We're going to make some really cool stuff
venue.
coming up. Yeah.
I'm excited about
Yeah, Monstercade in Winston-Salem. Everybody should go support it. They that place has kept comics around through the whole shutdown and quarantine, and the comics were the ones that showed up and supported that place when they were closed down. They were outside in the snow doing open mics in the parking lot. You know what I mean? It's just a really cool spot, and
Yeah.
we're going to do good stuff.
Awesome.
Well, before we wrap this thing up, how can people find you on social media, or do you have a website?
They can find me on, I guess like Facebook, Instagram. So on Instagram, the Snow Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
That's funny.
Yeah, and Alexander Stone.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I got all the stuff. I got all the
Let's do a hashtag Get Alex Fired now.
hashtag Get Alex Fired. I'm
And
supporting.
you're doing those shows in Winston too, right? Is
Yeah,
that,
so
is that a theater
coming up,
or
it's at ARTC Theater on in downtown Winston-Salem.
Good
This
lineups over there.
Yeah, this Friday, 8 o'clock is
Awesome.
the next one. And then on October 2nd, I'm part of Bunker Dogs Improv, and I'll be at the Milton Road Center, Mount Castle Review Theater.
okay,
with
awesome.
Bunker Dogs, yeah.
We'll have to have you back on too, man. I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about some other things, some of your personal ideas about society and
Sure,
stuff
definitely.
like that. Some of the stuff we talked about at the club the other day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'll get you over there and we'll talk about dick stuff.
Yeah.
We can talk about dick stuff over here too. But anyway,
Yeah.
well, thanks for coming on, dude. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
This was really
Enjoyed
fun.
it.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
I guess.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me hop in.
Yeah, let's get a picture real quick.